Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel Ray and today I have a very special and very, what's the word I'm looking for? You are really missed.
All right, yeah.
People really want to see you.
That's nice.
And they really want to be a part of this series again. So welcome back everybody to season 2 of the Weird and Wacky with Mr. Ray, aka Theory Tuesday, aka, what was I saying last night?
You had some idea for deep dives or something like that?
Yeah, diamond painting deep dives.
Diamond painting deep dives. There you go. Yeah, it's good to be back.
It's good to be back, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Welcome everyone. So just in case you've never stumbled upon this before, I am diamond painting. It is like paint by number, but with little tiny stones. And I'll show you in a little bit. You can have a look at my channel if you'd like to see more. I'm even gonna put a little link up in the eye for you so that you can go check out the entire playlist of how to diamond paint if you're curious. This is a podcast, but it's not serious.
This entire season is going to be about UFOs.
UFOs.
Yeah, and
Woo!
like the idea, because it's all popping off with UFOs lately, you know? Like really popping off. And I guess I just thought it would be interesting to track the UFO thing from like the beginning, you know, in the 30s and 40s, all the way through, and how do the sightings change, what's the evolution of it, and meet all the characters, and hopefully each time, each episode, we'll have a couple of crazy UFO sighting stories. We'll get to know the kind of characters involved in it and what's going on and everything like that.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
Yeah. So, and that's it. And hopefully they'll be a wee bit shorter, maybe 40 minutes, 45 minutes.
Yeah, we're going to condense things a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is today's episode about?
Today's episode is about the hearings, the House hearings on unidentified aerial phenomena.
The United States.
In the United States of America.
Yeah.
And that happened on the 26th of July, 2023.
Wow.
And I guess it's kind of it's a big deal because there had been legislation before that about this, and I guess let's just get into it, you know?
Okay.
It's after seeing
because
this,
it's kind of like it feels like a confession.
Yeah, and this is like the, I think it's the House, like it's the permanent committee on the intelligence community, you know, is my understanding of it. But either way, they've talked to a number of witnesses that have all come out before, but now they're quite literally reading it into the public record.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Making it official.
Yeah, and some of the stuff they talk about is absolutely mind-blowing, and that's when I was like, okay, let's make a second season, but let's just focus it on the UFO thing and see how that evolves and where it comes from. You know?
Yeah.
And like I said, it's, you know, each episode we're going to have like crazy stories, so let's just get into it.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
So I will put a link to the C-SPAN video.
Yeah, so that you can watch it.
Yeah, so you can watch it. And that's very helpful because it has it all transcripted, and you can click on the transcripts and it'll take you to certain parts of the video, you know? I'm not going to go into everything they said because they said so much crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was a few hours, wasn't it?
It's about 3 hours. But like an hour and a half of that is politicians politicking.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But let's get into it. So this is set up on the back of a similar hearing that they had a few weeks previous. And I guess I watched that as well, and I was a bit shocked to see kind of political big hitters in America making statements on UAPs.
Like who?
Like Chuck Schumer was there, you know? And he actually wrote a piece of legislation with another guy, but we'll get into that later, you know? So this one then took place a couple of weeks later, and it's Tim Burchett and Anna Paulina Luna are the two kind of representatives that were the driving forces on this. But there is a whole raft of big name politicians in the States that in the last political cycle, I guess the last few years, have been talking more and more about it. Burchett's a big one, Marco Rubio, Kirsten Gillibrand. There's an awful lot of people that suddenly seem to be speaking quite publicly about this.
Famous
you know?
politicians.
Famous, big name within their party, you know. Okay. The vast majority of them seem to be members of the Republican Party, you know. So anyway, they have this big thing. There's about, oh gosh, there's like maybe a dozen politicians, and they're all up on a dais, you know, and they're basically asking questions to these witnesses.
Yes.
So there's 3 witnesses. There's a guy called Ryan Graves. He's a former Navy F-18 Foxtrot pilot, and he's already been in the kind of media and stuff, particularly in an article from the New York Times from 2017, which kind of started the latest interest in UFOs.
Yeah, so it's not his first time.
He's in the public record, but not in the I'm under oath, which is the same for each of these guys.
Okay.
The second guy then is a guy called David Fravor. He's also a Navy pilot, and he's involved in this incident called the Nimitz Tic Tac incident. We'll get into that. And the third guy then, he's the new whistleblower guy. His name is David Grush, and he's a Army intelligence guy, I think. You know, he's new. He has the most explosive stuff to say. He's worked within the intelligence committee or community. We'll get into all this. All right. So, other people that you can see in the video are a guy called Jeremy Corbell, who's kind of a former army guy, I think, as well. But he's basically makes UFO videos now. Oh, really? Yeah. And he's a protege of another guy you can see in this video. When they do long shots of Grush, Jeremy Corbell is on the right, and then a guy called George Knapp is on the left. Have you heard the name?
Knapp.
Yeah, George
I
Knapp.
That, yeah.
Yeah, the guy that with what's his name, with Colin Kelleher wrote the Skinwalker books.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay.
Which, if this is your first time watching this series, you must go back and watch the other ones. We've got the Skinwalker Ranch series, the Cryptid series. Please go back and watch if you want to know more in depth about all of that. I'll have it up here, and I'll have it in the description.
Indeed. And they, from podcasts I've listened to where Corbell is kind of like George Knapp's protege, I would say, you know? But all he's really doing is repackaging and making videos and interviewing people that Corbell or that Knapp interviewed in the 90s. But he's kind of remaking them, and he's all I don't know how I feel about Jeremy Corbell, to be honest, because he just seems to be repackaging George Knapp's work. Yeah. You know? But anyway, they claim to be instrumental in having this brought forward, you know, and getting the witnesses and stuff. And to be honest, when I saw them sitting in the thing, I thought, oh well, maybe they're not as maybe there's something in it. Okay. Okay. So let's start with. I'm going to structure this a little bit different because they're asking the witnesses all of the stuff all the time, you know. So I'm going to go through what each of them said, and what they put on the record. Okay. The official under oath record.
What is now in the government record.
Yeah, exactly. So the first one we're going to talk about there is Ryan Graves, you know? And as I said, Ryan Graves is a former F-18 pilot with the Navy, and his testimony is that he was based in a Navy base in Virginia, and that they were doing workups. And like workups are basically military maneuvers, is what they call military maneuvers, you know? So they're out there doing workups, and they had been experiencing stuff like, what would you call it, like pings on their radar, and people seeing kind of glowing balls of light and stuff like that, being followed by glowing balls of light, watching things shoot up and down. Yeah. And that this had been happening intermittently for years. Years? Quite literally for years, you know? And they kept questioning it because, like, if you're in an F-18, you're traveling at, like, unimaginable speed. Yeah. You know? Like crazy speeds. And basically, all of the pilots were like, there's something out there. Like, you keep telling me it's a radar thing, but I keep seeing things following me. I keep seeing things appear and disappear.
Which is probably not something that you want to say to your superior. I keep seeing things.
This is
They'd be like, get out.
This is absolutely something that each of these pilots said. They said like that it's not unusual, and the first one or two times you would think, okay, it's just some artifact of my vision or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
But anyway, and you don't want to, because no one's going to give you a fighter jet to fly, and that's what you do. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So you don't say to your superiors, but this had been happening, and it escalated, and it had been happening so often that they basically had no choice, because Graves was saying like that honestly, this is a safety issue. Like a flock of birds when you're traveling at 1,000 kilometers an hour is a safety issue.
Exactly.
You know?
They couldn't like put it off anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Like when you're at Mach 2 and you hit geese, you're dead. So if there's lights,
or you're Fabio.
If there's lights appearing and disappearing and stuff, you know, you'll you're in danger, you know.
Yeah.
So he says this. He starts saying this to his superiors. Other guys are saying it, and then he says that it kind of culminates in something that he didn't experience, but that a pilot that he knows experienced. And basically, they were flying. They had gone to investigate a radar signal, I believe. Mm-hmm. And this is an artifact of my famous notes. Now I haven't actually put on the incident that led to it.
Oh, the notes.
I believe they went to investigate an unusual radar signal or something like that. And then out of the water arose this transparent sphere. And inside in the transparent sphere was an orange box. And the edges of the box touched the edges of the sphere. And that basically this thing rose up out of the water, and this pilot like experienced it, you know?
He's tripping.
Yeah. So then, basically, Graves retires then, you know, and he starts up this organization called American.
Wait, did he retire for age, or did he retire because of all this stuff going on?
I'd say he's definitely in his 40s. I'd imagine he retired just because he had done his service.
Okay.
You know? He doesn't actually say, but yeah, he retired, and then he started up this organization called Americans for Safe Aerospace. Mm-hmm. And that's basically a clearinghouse for pilots, commercial pilots, Navy pilots, anyone that's experiencing this phenomena in aerospace, because he sees it as primarily a safety issue. Right. You know?
Yeah. That's how it's packaged in the conference, in the hearing.
Yeah, he's always been saying this, like, that this is the organization he set up, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why he set it up. And he says that from the number of reports that they get from UAPs, that UAPs are extremely underreported.
Yes.
Yeah? He also says that he has loads of reports from commercial pilots that they will be flying at the cruising altitude, which is like 30 to 40,000 feet, and that objects will come from 80,000 feet above them, which is space, you know?
Right.
From 80,000 feet, will come down, buzz the aircraft, follow it around, shoot back up above 80,000 feet again.
And like in a matter of a millisecond or two.
It just come down
really fast.
Different types of experiences, but he said like that it is underreported, because he said like that their organization they have guarantees that they'll keep the information anonymous and stuff. But he said like that these guys again if you're a commercial pilot and you go to the organization, like whoever you're working for, and start telling them this stuff, they'll put you on leave.
Yeah.
You know, you will lose your job, like.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy stuff to say. So that's what Ryan Graves has to say. And then again, there's umpteen articles about this. Like you can Google your man if you want to go down a rabbit hole and read what he has to say, you know. And again, watch the C-SPAN stuff. It's mind blowing.
Does he have a book?
He doesn't. Then we get on to the next guy, David Fravor. David Fravor is again a Navy pilot. His experience is from the West Coast, and he was part of, I think they call it like a strike group or something like that. So you know, it's like an aircraft carrier and destroyers and all different types of ships, you know.
Right.
And they all move together, and And basically they were doing a workup in 2004, which is off of the coast of California. Yeah. And they started experiencing stuff like that as well. There was kind of, weird radar signals, strange lights in the sky, balls of kind of light, glowing light and all this. And they would get signals where they would pick it up at 80,000 feet and it would be stationary, and then it would suddenly drop down to a few 100 feet above the surface of the water, and then it would shoot back up to 80,000 feet. I get the impression that 80,000 feet might be the cap on radar or something like that, you know?
Okay, yeah.
But anyway, it's coming from essentially outer space, down and up. It's also doing weird things like moving around, following the ships and stuff like that. And again, they're getting unusual signals on the radar.
Right.
So they're sent out to investigate one day. They're on one of these workups again where they're doing military maneuvers, you know. And he said like that they were heading, and there's a thing called a cap, I think. But anyway, it's a position in space that's like a rallying point for all of the aircraft, you know. And they're heading to this cap to start the maneuvers, you know.
Yeah.
So they fly to that position, and they see a tic tac, like a metal tic tac shape, and it's about the size of a van.
An object that's kind of like long and roundy at the ends, like a tic tac.
If you picture a tic tac the
like
size of the A-Team van, that's what this is. You got that image?
I sure do.
A metallic tic tac the size. I don't know if he says it in here, but he said previously like that there's no rivets or anything. It's just a solid kind of object, you know. And they get down, and they start to approach it. It shoots up, you know, like straight up in the sky.
Yeah.
So he's like, okay, and he starts a climb, which is where, you know, you're going in a spiral, an upward spiral. And as he starts going in an upward spiral, the tic tac goes from stationary and starts matching his spiral on the other direction, coming down towards him.
What do they call that thing? Like
where they're coming down almost like DNA or something like that.
Yeah.
And
Helix?
a helix.
Double helix.
It starts matching his spiral, shoots past him, and then basically straight down again to the top of the ocean. So he turns the aircraft around and spirals down to meet it again. And when he gets down there, the tic tac is just above the water, and it's spinning on its axis, and not you know, along the length.
Like a spinning top.
Yeah, like if you put your finger in the middle of it and spun it on the top of your finger or something. It's hard to describe, but it's basically rotating, you know.
Yeah. And
it's actually having an effect on the water below it. Like you can see it push the water up to a thing, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's the testimony that he has, and then he said that basically he
said that before. Like he came out with that in like 2017.
In 2017.
Yeah.
The incident happened in 2004.
Okay.
And he said that it became like he said like literally everyone on the Nimitz and in that strike group was aware of what was going on because it was like cuckoo bananas, you know.
Right.
And he said like that some people have suggested that it was like some kind of secret, you know, like top secret new weapons platform or something like that, you know. But he said like that honestly in his 20 years in the Navy, stuff like that does not happen. Do you know what I mean? Like it just doesn't happen. So that's the story. And he said like that it was a really good story until 2009. You know, you tell it in a bar when you were with other pilots and stuff like that, or other people in the Navy, you know? You know, that's nothing, I've got a really weird experience I had. And then he met a guy called Jay Stratton. And Jay Stratton is the former director of the UAP task force. And he told him that story. And Stratton says, you know, you should really come out with this information.
Yeah.
You know? So then that kind of leads to him getting involved with Leslie Kean and other people like this, and it ends up in the 2017 article in the New York Times, which is where we get other luminaries of the modern UFO movement like Lou Elizondo, Tom DeLonge, Christopher Mellon. All of these guys are involved in it.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We can get into all of that later. So, the next one then, the next character that speaks on this is the new guy. And his name is David Grush. Yeah?
The new guy.
The new guy. And David Grush has some, like, cuckoo stuff to say.
Yeah.
You know? Like, David Grush has never had a UFO experience, but he is a intelligence professional, like he's worked in intelligence for years, you know? Mm-hmm.
So he's like a no-nonsense kind of dude.
Yeah, he's Air Force intelligence. He served in Afghanistan, and then after that, he went kind of onto a career in various three-letter agencies in the Pentagon, you know? Mm-hmm. And while he was there, he was at the world-famous National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, which is basically like a kind of one of these three-letter agencies for intelligence that handles mapping and satellites.
Are they the ones that handled the balloon?
I think they might be, yeah, I think they might be. Well, I guess they would all, but like each one of these, so he ends up being the co-lead of the UAP analysis within the geospatial thing, which is tied into, you know, Arrow and all of these kind of organizations. Like there's an awful lot of acronyms and letters, you know? But basically he's an intelligence guy, he worked in the Pentagon, and then eventually he ends up as an analyst, as one of the co-analysts for the geospatial people for UFOs, or yes. UAPs as they're called. Yes. Yeah? And he said that he basically like started to try and investigate various elements of it, and then he ends up talking to loads of people within the Pentagon. Yeah? Mm-hmm. Now, let's see what he said. He says that his information is that the US has several crashed non-human intelligence crafts.
They're just holding on to them.
Yeah, that they have collected over the years up to a dozen of these. He also says that his information is that they have also collected non-human intelligence bodies.
Bodies?
That's correct. He says that they have extraterrestrial bodies. He also says other stuff. He says, like this stuff it's so mind-blowing. Like he also says that he cannot say in the public record where the UFOs are stored, where they're being researched, where the bodies are, where those are being stored, what happened to them. But he can tell people, like he can, if he gets in a skiff.
Did he say bodies or did he say life?
He said they call them biological entities. He said like that they had collected non-human intelligence biological entities. Yeah. There's all these different ways of saying it, but basically it's non-human.
Yeah, I was just wondering if maybe they were kind of like trying to make people excited by saying life, but then meaning like, you know, chemicals, like bits of asteroid or something like that. You know what I mean?
He's definitely not, he's not talking about like bacteria that we can't identify that could be from Mars or something, or you know. Yeah. No, he's talking about actual non-human life that is controlling these objects. He never really gets tied down on whether they're coming from space or not.
But that's one dude saying that.
That's him.
Now, he is saying it on the record. So.
That's him saying that he has sources inside the Pentagon that have said this to him.
Ah.
Yeah?
Okay.
So he hasn't actually seen any of this.
No.
He's just saying that he knows guys that know guys that have told him that this is a thing that happened. Yeah? Mm-hmm. I guess he says a lot of crazy stuff. I guess at one stage, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Is that right?
AOC.
Yeah, AOC, the famous representative. She asks him a number of kind of pointed questions. Where are these being held? Who's responsible? How would we find them? How, what kind of requests? Who would we request the information from? And he basically says that he has all this information, but he can only give it to them in a skiff.
And a skiff is
I actually looked this up. A skiff is either a typical small flat-bottomed open boat with a pointed bow and flat stern used for inshore fishing, or it's a sensitive compartmentalized information facility. I like to think
you gotta get out on the boat.
I like to think it's a typical, because you get out on the boat.
We gotta have a couple drinky poos.
They're just,
and I can tell you about
get the
this.
fishing rods out. Both sitting there just chatting. So he tells him, but he says that an awful lot that he can do when he gets in a skiff, Other big deal stuff from this as well is Matt Gaetz. The famous Matt Gaetz?
Is he related to
Matt Gaetz is a Republican representative from Florida.
No, I don't think I know.
And Matt Gaetz said that his office received a protected disclosure, which is a type of top secret thing, like it's an anonymous tip-off from someone inside the organization.
Okay.
That he got a protected disclosure saying that there's photos and evidence of a UFO encounter at Eglin Air Force Base in Florida. He then tells a story where him, Tim Burchett, and Anna Paulina Luna, who are the two representatives that set up this, that were really driving forces behind this hearing, that they all rocked up to Eglin Air Force Base in Florida, unannounced, and insisted that they get shown the evidence of the UAP. There was a bit of a kerfuffle.
I don't think that works.
Yeah. There was a bit of a kerfuffle, and they were told that there was no such evidence, and there was no way that they were going to get any of this, And then eventually, he says that they were shown an image. All three of them were shown images of unidentified anomalous phenomenon, which again is your another version of the UAP thing. But they were shown photos that were undeniably of a non-human intelligence and undeniably of a craft. And if you want to go to the C-SPAN thing and listen to him tell the story about that, there's orange orbs rising out of the water. The whole base is on alert. It's a
He's that dude.
Yeah, that's Matt Gaetz.
It's pretty.
All of this stuff is now in the record under oath from these guys. Yeah. I suppose one of the things I wanted to point out as well is that
They do know that the internet is forever, right?
Yeah, they do. Yeah. One of the things I wanted to point out is David Grush. His story is that he filed this thing called a whistleblower kind of thing. It's basically if you're working in an intelligence agency, and you have, or in any agency in the government for the states, and you have concerns about how it's being run or anything, you can go and basically get cover, go to your superiors and saying, I have grave concerns about how this is being run. They'll give you cover so that you can testify about it. Okay. So his story is that he started hearing all of this stuff about this secret space program and captured UFOs and captured non-human intelligence and stuff like that, and he approached a senior official that was retired but used to be big in UAP circles, and he explained his misgivings and that he had heard all of this information, and that guy told him, go get this whistleblower thing and then go public with it. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets interesting. I think the senior guy that he was...
Oh, you have an idea who it is.
I believe so, yeah. The senior guy that he was talking to, I think, is Jay Stratton, who's the guy that told Lieutenant Fravor to go public with his sighting.
Right.
Now...
Because there are a lot of people in there that have been talking about this for decades.
Yes.
That are trying really hard to get this legitimized.
Yeah, and it's like this is the UFO mythos since at least the 80s or 90s, that that the US government and other governments globally have these UFOs and they're studying them,
Right.
There's lots of different versions. I don't think we need to go into it. But basically, he said that he went to this guy. I think it's Jay Stratton. Now, interesting thing about Jay Stratton. Do you remember in the Skinwalker books when there was the military guy with 3 other guys and they saw the black orb on the road?
The black orb on the road.
Do you remember? They went to investigate. They were
the triangle thing.
No, they were signals guys, and they basically had night vision goggles, and they started walking around.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's literally in both books.
Yeah.
And they call him Axelrod. Do you remember? And then in the second book, in the Skinwalkers at the Pentagon, it followed him home, and his family had all those weird experiences with the Wolfman and, and the balls of light and everything.
Yeah.
But that's Jay Stratton.
Oh my god.
As far as I understand it, that's Jay Stratton.
Targeted.
Yeah, but he's in the Skinwalker thing as well,
Yeah.
That's my feeling, is that that's Jay Stratton. So that's it. So on the back of this anyway, David Grush also is involved in this National Defense Authorization Act, which was drafted by Chuck Schumer. Mm-hmm. And basically that says that my understanding of it is, it's like one of those things, if it gets voted through and it gets signed, within a time limit, like 45 days, the intelligence community has to release all the information they have on, and I quote, recovered technologies of an unknown origin and on non-biological entities. And that is the National Defense Authorization Act of 2023. Now, isn't that some mind-blowing stuff?
Yeah. I mean, they're getting technical now. There's not much room for loopholes here.
Yeah.
But also, it's a little suspicious that Stratton is so, ingrained in this as well. Do you know what I mean? Well, allegedly.
Oh. Yeah, that Stratton's in...
No, just keep it away from your face.
Yeah, that Stratton's in...
Put it down away from your face. You're very loud. Thank you.
Yeah, it is crazy that Stratton's involved in it. And other guys as well, like George Knapp. He literally wrote both these Skinwalker Ranch books.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah.
The organization, the UAP task force that Stratton was in charge of, they literally came out of ATIP and OSAP, which are related to... OSAP! It literally came out of those that are related to Bigelow,
Yeah.
The whole, it's so strange. The other thing about it as well is that I got so excited when he read these into the public record, and I was like, oh my giddy aunt, what's going on, Mm-hmm. David Grush is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is that all he's really saying is, I talked to some dudes and these dudes said this. That's not proof, that's not evidence.
It's not proof.
It's not proof of anything. It's not evidence of anything. All he's saying is, trust me, I had this friend and this happened. You know what I mean? There's no evidence
And
here.
they told me that Bigfoot exists.
Yeah, and I mean,
anybody could say that. It doesn't mean that it's real.
Hopefully, as we go along, we can get into the smoke and mirrors kind of stuff, because a lot of it is smoke and mirrors. But it's, yeah.
As is a lot of this kind of thing.
As is a lot of this kind of thing. I guess that's all we have to say about that. But that's pretty mind-blowing stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that we've gotten to this stage where we're talking about this and writing it into government record.
Yeah.
It's not just a mini-series from Discovery or the History Channel trying to capitalize on people's beliefs. But if it turns out to be true, What if it turns out to be true?
Yeah.
What if just being, those people who have been saying extraordinary things for so long that I've laughed at. What if that's true? What if there are portals into different dimensions and like these beings are coming through or whatever? We just don't know.
Yeah, it's really it's.
Or is it just?
I mean, it would be a kind of epoch defining thing, really, wouldn't it? Like it would be.
It would change. It would change humanity.
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
And how we interact with each other and the world around us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the narrative that's been coming out since 2017, it's a change in the nature of the UAP thing. Like it's no longer a physical object. Like it's no longer a ship,
Yeah.
Like it's something that may or may not be coming from another dimension. Is essentially what's happening,
Right. And the discourse that already exists once this happened. Once this event happened, and these people got together and they put this information on the record, the immediate knee-jerk response from people on, particularly in my experience, TikTok. And they were like, well, if aliens are real, do I have to pay my rent? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It could be a huge defining event for people.
Yeah, and I mean, there's...
If it's real.
Like, the other thing about it as well is that, like, it's quite like there's no doubt, like if these things can travel through dimensions, or they can travel from light years away,
yes,
and come here, and we find them. I mean, it's nice to think that we could find this technology and reverse engineer it, but like essentially, like if you handed a chimpanzee an iPhone and we're like you wouldn't expect to come back and have the chimpanzee have built their own iPhone. Like that's essentially what you're talking about here.
Yeah, let's be.
And there's other stuff as well, like that they say, oh well, there's loads of like technology that you can attribute to them reverse engineering UAP, like fiber optics, for instance, that came from the UAPs. Do you know when fiber optics was first suggested? I looked into this, and it's mind blowing.
I'm gonna say around the time of Tesla.
The 1840s. Although. Honestly, if you were gonna do an alien, like Tesla's always a good one to slot into a conspiracy theory,
Oh, listen, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I would hope that if we were able to, and this we'll probably have to talk about this another time, but that we would use it for good. But we have to be real about this. Like, if we did figure out alien technology and it was handed to us, or if we did meet aliens, I really do feel like there would be a knee-jerk reaction to just violence.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, I might have watched too many movies.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Why would there be a knee-jerk reaction to violence? I'd imagine...
Because if we can't copy it, then we have to destroy it.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
I think a lot of people would just slip into denial or something,
Or maybe religion.
Yeah, it's definitely an existential issue for religions and stuff.
Yeah.
Although the Pope has said that.
Has the Pope come out with something?
Yeah, the Vatican came out with an official statement on them years ago. It was basically like, if there is life on other planets, it was made by the same God, and they too should, they're all our space brothers, essentially.
They should donate money to the church roof fund.
So I mean that's it for the hearing, like, but I'd recommend you go and watch it if you have time and you want to go down a rabbit hole. It's pretty crazy, like.
We will have the links to that and more down below. Thank you all so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Information about this painting and the tools that I used will also be down below in the description. If you have any questions or if you'd like to leave a comment comment, some feedback or something like that. We would love to hear it. And hang around because next week we'll have episode 2. What are we going to talk about next week?
Next week we will talk about we'll talk about what David Grush said in interviews and podcasts with people and what he did not say in the hearing. And there's essentially the first crashed UFO story will be there. Will be in that.
Oh, I'm very excited.
The first historically crashed UFO recovery story will be in that episode.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Again, thank you all so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, a wonderful week ahead, and we will see you all soon for our next episode. Take care, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.